My father, Ricardo Martinez, built his entire identity around being a successful attorney. Not just any attorney, senior partner at Martinez Associates, a mid-sized firm that handled corporate law in downtown Phoenix. He wore custom suits, drove a Mercedes S-Class, and made sure everyone knew he'd graduated from UCLA Law. What he never mentioned was that his firm had been struggling for the past 3 years. But I knew. I knew everything about Martinez Associates' financials, their client retention problems, their desperate search for stable revenue streams. I knew because my company, TechCore Solutions, had been their largest client for the past 18 months, generating $840,000 annually in legal fees. My father just didn't know that I was the one signing those checks. Growing up as Ricardo Martinez's daughter meant living under constant scrutiny and constant disappointment. My older brother, David, became a doctor, exactly what Dad wanted. My younger sister, Isabel, married a corporate executive, exactly what Dad expected. I became a software engineer. Why would you waste your life on computers? Dad had asked when I was 17, choosing my major. No woman succeeds in technology. It's a hobby, not a career. When I graduated from Arizona State University with a computer science degree, Dad didn't attend. I had a deposition, he'd said. My mom came alone, looking uncomfortable, leaving early to make Dad's dinner. When I got my first job at a tech startup making $65,000, Dad laughed. Your brother makes that in 3 months. When are you going to get serious about your future? When I was promoted to senior developer after 2 years, Dad interrupted my announcement at Sunday dinner. That's nice, Mija. David just made chief resident. So I stopped telling him things. I stopped mentioning when I switched companies for a $95,000 salary. I didn't tell him when I became a team lead at $130,000. I certainly didn't mention when I was recruited as director of engineering at a fintech company for $180,000 plus equity. And I definitely didn't tell him when TechCore Solutions, a rapidly growing cybersecurity firm, offered me the position of chief technology officer with a $320,000 salary, significant equity, and a seat on the executive board. I was 29 years old. I reported directly to the CEO. I managed a department of 140 engineers across 3 countries. I held patents on 2 security protocols that were industry standard. Forbes had mentioned me in an article about emerging tech leaders. My father thought I was still playing with computers at some entry-level position. The disconnect wasn't accidental. I'd learned years ago that my father measured success only by his own standards. Law, medicine, or marriage to someone successful in law or medicine. Technology didn't exist in his worldview except as something his secretary dealt with when his computer froze. But the real reason I kept my success hidden? I was watching. Observing. Every dismissive comment, every mocking laugh, every time he introduced me as my daughter who works with computers, while spending 20 minutes bragging about David's surgical skills, I was collecting data. In my world, you don't make decisions without complete information. And I wanted complete information about who my father really was when he thought I was nobody important. The answer became clear over the years. He was cruel to people he deemed beneath him. Dismissive. Condescending. He treated waiters like servants, junior associates like idiots, and me like a perpetual disappointment who'd never understand his sophisticated world. You wouldn't understand complex contracts, he'd say when I asked about his work. This is business strategy, not computer games, he'd add when I tried to discuss anything professional. Stick to your little tech bubble, Mija. Let the real professionals handle important things. Meanwhile, TechCore Solutions had been handling something very important. We'd been Martinez Associates client since my 2nd month as CTO. Our company needed corporate legal services for contracts, intellectual property filings, regulatory compliance, and acquisition support. Our general counsel, Margaret Chin, had recommended Martinez Associates because they were local, mid-sized, and hungry for business. They'll give us excellent attention, Margaret had said. They need us more than we need them. He was right. Over 18 months, Martinez Associates had handled 43 legal matters for TechCore. We paid our bills promptly. We were their 3rd largest client, representing about 20% of their annual revenue. My father's senior partner, James Sullivan, personally managed our account. I'd spoken with him twice on conference calls, always as Ms. Martinez from the executive team, never identifying myself as Ricardo's daughter. Why would I? We shared a last name, but he'd never asked and I'd never volunteered. James probably assumed I was married to some Martinez in accounting. My father certainly never mentioned having a daughter in technology leadership. Why would he? In his mind, I didn't exist in that world. The situation was almost perfect. I had a front row seat to my father's professional life without him knowing. I saw how his firm operated, how they charged clients, how they structured deals. I watched Martinez and Associates slowly stabilize their finances specifically because of TechCore's consistent business. And then came my birthday dinner. I should have known better than to expect anything different. The invitation came from my mother. Your father wants to take the family to dinner for your 30th birthday. Morton's Steakhouse. Saturday at 7. What he actually wanted was a family photo opportunity. David would be there with his wife looking successful. Isabel would be there with her executive husband looking accomplished. And I would be there as the disappointing daughter who'd chosen the wrong career, providing contrast to make everyone else shine brighter. But I went. Not because I expected anything good, but because I'd learned to observe, to collect data, to understand exactly who people are when they think you're powerless. I wore a simple black dress and brought business cards. Not because I planned to hand them out, but because I'd just received a new box from our corporate printer. Beautiful cards. Embossed premium stock with my title clearly printed beneath my name. Elena Martinez, Chief Technology Officer, TechCore Solutions. I'd slipped 5 cards into my wallet that morning, the same way I always carried them. In my world, you never knew when you'd meet someone worth connecting with. I should have left them in the car. Dinner started exactly as expected. Dad held court at the head of the table discussing his important cases. David talked about a complex surgery. Isabel's husband mentioned a merger he was facilitating. Mom smiled and made sure everyone's water glasses stayed full. I sat quietly, eating my steak, checking my phone occasionally, contributing nothing because nothing I could say would matter. Elena, put the phone away, Dad said sharply. We're having family time. I was reading an email from our head of security about a potential system vulnerability, but I set the phone down. Sorry. Still addicted to that screen, Dad said to David. This is what happens when you spend your whole life with computers. No social skills. David laughed politely. Isabel smirked. Mom looked uncomfortable but said nothing. I took another bite of steak. Then James Sullivan walked in. James Sullivan, senior partner at Martinez Associates. The man who managed TechCore Solutions' legal account. The man who'd personally billed us $840,000 over 18 months. The man who'd told me on our last conference call that Martinez and Associates valued our business tremendously. He spotted my father immediately and headed to our table with his wife. Ricardo. James extended his hand. Fancy seeing you here. Family dinner. Dad stood, shaking hands warmly. James, yes. Celebrating my daughter's birthday. You remember David, my son the surgeon? And Isabel and her husband Marcus? And this is Elena, my youngest. Happy birthday, Elena, James said politely, not recognizing me without the context of a conference call. Thank you, I replied quietly. Join us for a drink? Dad offered, signaling the waiter. We just ordered dessert. James and his wife pulled up chairs from a nearby table. The waiter brought glasses. Dad ordered a bottle of wine to celebrate. How's the firm doing, James? David asked, always good at networking. Excellent, actually, James replied. We just landed a major client last year. Tech company, very stable business. Ricardo, you've done outstanding work on their contracts. Dad waved his hand modestly. Standard corporate law. Nothing too complex. I kept my face neutral, cutting my steak into smaller pieces. Still, James continued, it's our 3rd largest account now. Really stabilized our revenue streams. $800,000 annually. $840,000, I corrected mentally. But who's counting? That's wonderful, Mom said, clearly relieved that the firm was doing well. Technology companies, Dad said, reaching for his wine. All venture capital money, no real substance. They'll probably fold in a few years like most of them do. James shifted uncomfortably. Well, this one seems quite solid. TechCore Solutions. They're in cybersecurity, government contracts, Fortune 500 clients. Very impressive operation. My phone buzzed. Margaret Chin, our general counsel. Elena, the Martinez firm sent over the updated acquisition contract. It's good. Should I approve their invoice for this month? I typed back under the table. Hold on that. I'll let you know. What does Elena do again? James asked politely, clearly trying to include me in the conversation. Dad opened his mouth and I knew exactly what was coming. The usual dismissive explanation. She works with computers, or something in IT, or his favorite, still figuring herself out career-wise. I could have corrected him. Could have said, actually, I'm the CTO at TechCore Solutions, and James here has been handling our legal work for 18 months. But I wanted to see how far he'd go. Dad paused, searching for the least embarrassing description. She does computer stuff for some tech company. Entry-level work, mostly. Entry-level. After 12 years in the industry. After 7 promotions. After reaching C-suite at 29. David jumped in trying to help. Elena's being modest. She has some sort of manager position, right? Coordinator. Dad corrected, confidently wrong. She coordinates computer projects or something. Nothing too technical. James nodded politely, losing interest. In his world, project coordinators didn't matter. Only executives did. Anyway, Dad continued, pulling out his wallet to pay for the wine, it's honest work. Not everyone can be a surgeon or a lawyer. That's when my business card fell out of my wallet. I'd taken out my credit card to split the dinner check, and somehow one of my new business cards came with it, landing face up on the white tablecloth. Dad saw it before I could grab it. What's this? He picked it up, squinting at the embossed text. Then he started laughing. Did you make these at Staples? He held the card up so James and David could see. Look at this. Chief Technology Officer. He read it like it was the funniest joke he'd ever heard. James leaned in to look. His face went pale. But Dad kept going. Elena, honey, you can't just print fake business cards. That's fraud. Chief Technology Officer. He showed it to the whole table. She probably downloaded a template online. The delusion is actually sad. Dad, I started. No, seriously, who do you think you're fooling? He was genuinely angry now, embarrassed that I'd brought such an obvious fake to a dinner with his senior partner. You're a project coordinator at best. You can't just pretend to be an executive because you want to feel important. James had gone from pale to gray. His wife looked confused. David was staring at the card, uncertain. Ricardo, James said quietly. That's... But Dad cut him off. James, I apologize. This is embarrassing. My daughter has always had delusions about her career. I don't know where she got these printed, but I'll make sure she understands that lying on business cards is illegal. I looked at James. He was staring at me with complete recognition now. Without the conference call context, without expecting to see me at his partner's family dinner, he hadn't placed me. But now, looking at the card, seeing my face in person, he definitely knew. Ms. Martinez, James said carefully. From TechCore. Dad laughed. See? Even James feels bad for you. Elena, you don't work at TechCore Solutions. That's the client I was just telling you about. The major account. You can't just claim to work for companies that are our clients. Ricardo, James tried again, louder this time. I know you're trying to be polite, James, but really you don't need to humor her. She probably saw the company name in my papers at home and thought it sounded impressive. Dad was in full attorney mode now, building his case. This is identity fraud, actually. Elena, where did you get these printed? What website? I replied calmly, enjoy your dinner. Then I stood, picked up my card from where Dad had thrown it on the table, and walked out of Morton's Steakhouse. I didn't storm out. I didn't slam anything. I didn't raise my voice or make a scene. I simply left. Behind me, I could hear James saying something urgent to my father, but I was already in the parking lot, already sliding into my car, already pulling out my phone. The email to Margaret Chin was short. Margaret, effective immediately, terminate all legal services with Martinez and Associates. Begin transition of all active matters to Berkshire Legal Group by Monday morning. Inform James Sullivan that the decision is final and based on strategic restructuring. Do not mention my family relationship. Pay any outstanding invoices in full. We honor our contracts. But we're done. Elena. I sent it at 8:47 p.m. on Saturday night. Margaret responded at 8:51 p.m., Understood. I'll draft the termination letter tonight and send Monday morning. Should I include a transition timeline? 30 days for active matters. No renewals, no exceptions. Done. I sat in my car for 10 minutes watching the restaurant entrance. I wasn't angry. Anger was inefficient. I was simply watching my family's data add up to a conclusion I'd suspected for years. They would never see me as successful because they didn't respect the path I'd chosen. Not unless someone else told them to. My phone rang. James Sullivan. I let it go to voicemail. It rang again. I declined the call. A text from James. Ms. Martinez, please call me. There's been a terrible misunderstanding. Another text. Ricardo didn't know. Please, we need to talk about this. Another call. Voicemail. I drove home to my condo in Scottsdale. The one I'd bought 2 years ago for $680,000 in cash. The one my father thought I was renting. Sunday morning my phone started ringing at 7 a.m. That. Declined. David. Declined. I answered. Elena, Mija, please come over. Your father wants to apologize. Does he understand what he's apologizing for? Pause. James called him last night. After you left. He explained that you really do work at that company. Did James explain what my position is? Another pause. He said you're in management. I almost laughed. Even now she couldn't say it. I'm the Chief Technology Officer, Mom. I run the entire technology department. I have 140 engineers reporting to me. I make strategic decisions about our security infrastructure. I hold 2 patents. I've been in the industry for 12 years. Silence. TechCore Solutions paid Martinez and Associates $840,000 over the past 18 months for legal services. Dad personally worked on many of those matters. James Sullivan managed our account. And Dad just spent Saturday night telling his senior partner that his own daughter is a fraud who makes fake business cards at Staples. Elena, he didn't know. He didn't know because he never asked. He didn't know because he decided 12 years ago that I was a disappointment, and he never bothered to update his information. He didn't know because every time I tried to tell him about a promotion or an achievement, he interrupted me to talk about David's surgery schedule. Please, Mija. He wants to make this right. Tell Dad that James will receive formal notification tomorrow morning. Martinez and Associates is terminated as TechCore's legal counsel. We're moving all our business to Berkshire Legal Group. Elena, no. Your father's firm needs that account. James said it's 20% of their revenue. Then Dad should have treated his daughter with 20% of the respect he shows his clients. I hung up. Monday morning arrived with military precision. Margaret Chin sent the termination letter at 9 a.m. sharp. Professional, courteous, impossible to argue with. TechCore Solutions has decided to consolidate our legal services with a single firm for strategic efficiency. We thank Martinez and Associates for their excellent service and will ensure a smooth transition of all pending matters within 30 days. My phone exploded. James Sullivan called 6 times before 10 a.m. I didn't answer. Dad called. Declined. David texted, Elena, this is extreme. Dad made a mistake. Don't destroy his business over one dinner. I replied, I'm not destroying anything. I'm making a business decision to move our legal services to a different firm. If Martinez and Associates built their stability on a single client, that's poor business planning. Isabel called crying. How can you do this to Dad? To the family. I'm not doing anything to the family. I'm the Chief Technology Officer at TechCore Solutions, making a strategic decision about our legal services provider. This is business. You're being vindictive. I'm being professional. Martinez and Associates will receive 30 days to transition all matters, full payment for all services rendered, and a polite termination letter with no negative references. That's more courtesy than Dad showed me when he called me a fraud in front of his senior partner. She hung up on me. Tuesday morning, James Sullivan appeared at TechCore's office. Our receptionist called me. Ms. Martinez, there's a James Sullivan here to see you. He doesn't have an appointment but says it's urgent. I could have refused. Could have had security escort him out. But I wanted him to understand something. Send him to conference room C. I'll be there in 10 minutes. I made him wait 15. When I entered, James stood immediately. He looked like he hadn't slept in 2 days. Ms. Martinez, thank you for seeing me. I sat across the conference table. You have 5 minutes. Please reconsider the termination. Ricardo didn't know who you were. If he'd known, he would have treated me differently. That's exactly the problem, James. I don't understand. Your firm has worked with TechCore for 18 months. You've billed us $840,000. You've spoken to me on at least 6 conference calls. You've sent me contracts to review. You've responded to my technical questions about intellectual property filings. At no point did you ask if I was related to your partner. Why would I? Martinez is a common name. Exactly. And at no point did my father mention having a daughter in technology leadership, because in his mind that's impossible. So when I showed up at a family dinner, neither of you connected the dots. James shifted uncomfortably. When Ricardo saw your business card, he assumed it was fake because he spent 12 years deciding I'm a failure. He doesn't listen when I talk about my career. He doesn't ask questions. He doesn't attend my achievements. He just assumes that because I didn't become a lawyer or a doctor or marry someone impressive, I'm nobody important. He knows better now. Because you told him. Not because he figured it out. Not because he apologized for being wrong. Not because he suddenly started respecting my career path. He knows because his senior partner informed him that he just humiliated his firm's 3rd largest client. He's devastated, Ms. Martinez. Is he devastated that he hurt his daughter? Or devastated that he lost a major client? James didn't answer. That's what I thought. I stood. The termination stands. Berkshire Legal Group will handle our transition. Your firm will be paid in full for all services. I'll provide excellent references if anyone asks about your work quality. But we're done. 20% of our revenue, Ms. Martinez. We'll have to lay off associates. Then I suggest you diversify your client base and stop building your business model on assumptions about who deserves respect. I walked out. Wednesday brought the family intervention. Mom called. We're all coming to your condo tonight. We need to talk about this as a family. No. Elena, please. No. This isn't a family matter. This is a business decision. If Dad wants to discuss it, he can schedule an appointment with my office like any other concerned party. You're tearing this family apart. I'm the chief technology officer of a cybersecurity firm making a strategic decision about legal services. The fact that it affects Dad's business doesn't change that it's the right business decision. But they came anyway. I was making dinner when the doorbell rang at 7 p.m. Through the security camera I saw all of them. Dad, Mom, David, Isabel. A united front. I almost didn't open the door. But I wanted them to see something. I opened the door. This is my private residence. You weren't invited. Dad pushed forward. Elena, we need to talk. Do we? Because for 12 years, you haven't wanted to talk about my career, my achievements, or my life. Now that it affects your bottom line, suddenly we need to talk. He stopped in my entryway looking around at my condo. The floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Scottsdale. The modern furniture. The original artwork. The evidence of a successful life he'd never bothered to notice. You bought this place? He asked, sounding shocked. 2 years ago. Gish. You never asked where I lived, so I never told you. Mom looked like she might cry. Why didn't you tell us about your job? I tried. Every time I mentioned a promotion, Dad changed the subject to David's surgery schedule. Every time I started to explain a project, Dad interrupted with, "You wouldn't understand," stories about his legal cases. Every time I accomplished something, it was dismissed because it wasn't law or medicine. That's not fair, Isabel protested. Really? Isabel, when was the last time Dad spent 20 minutes bragging about my career the way he brags about David being a surgeon? Silence. When was the last time Mom introduced me as my daughter, the chief technology officer, the way she introduces you as married to Marcus the executive? More silence. When was the last time anyone in this family asked me a single substantive question about my work? David spoke quietly. We thought you were doing okay. We didn't know you were this successful. Because nobody asked. Nobody cared. As long as I wasn't embarrassing the family, I was irrelevant. Dad finally found his voice. I made a mistake. Saturday night I was wrong. I shouldn't have assumed. You shouldn't have spent 12 years dismissing me. Saturday night wasn't a mistake, Dad. Saturday night was you showing me exactly how you see me when you think it doesn't matter. When you think I'm nobody important. I want to fix this, he said, and he actually sounded sincere. Then fix your firm's client diversity problem. Fix your business model. Fix your assumptions about who deserves respect. But you can't fix this by asking me to undo a sound business decision. We'll lose everything, Mom whispered. No, you won't. Dad's firm will lose 20% of its revenue. That's painful but not fatal. You'll lay off some associates, tighten your budget, and rebuild. It's business. You'll survive. Why are you being so cruel? Isabel demanded. I looked at my sister. I'm not being cruel. I'm being professional. Cruel was calling me a fraud in front of Dad's senior partner. Cruel was laughing at my business card. Cruel was 12 years of dismissing everything I achieved. I'm just making a business decision. Dad stepped forward. If I apologize, truly apologize, will you reconsider? Are you apologizing because you hurt me or because you need the client back? He hesitated. That hesitation told me everything. That's what I thought. Berkshire Legal Group has already started the transition. The decision is final. I opened the door. Please leave. They filed out slowly. At the threshold, Dad turned back. I'm proud of you, Mija. I should have said that years ago. You're proud now because James Sullivan told you to be. You're proud because Forbes mentioned me. You're proud because I'm profitable. But you weren't proud when I graduated. You weren't proud when I got promoted. You weren't proud when I became CTO. You were proud when it affected your bottom line. That's not true. Then why did you call my business card a fake from Staples? He had no answer. I closed the door. 3 months later, Martinez and Associates settled into their new reality. They laid off 2 junior associates. They cut office expenses. They hustled for new clients to replace the TechCore revenue. James Sullivan sent me a fruit basket with an apology note. I donated the basket to our office break room. My family sends occasional texts. Surface-level stuff. Hope you're well. Thinking of you. Nothing substantive. Nothing real. I send polite responses. Professional courtesy. Nothing more. At work, TechCore Solutions thrives. Our new legal team at Berkshire Legal Group is excellent, responsive, knowledgeable, and they've never once questioned my authority or assumed my business cards are fake. Last week, I was featured in a Forbes article, 30 Under 30 Tech Leaders Reshaping Cybersecurity. The photo showed me in our operations center, surrounded by screens displaying threat monitoring systems I designed. Mom texted, "We saw the article. So proud." I didn't respond. Because here's what I learned from Saturday night at Morton's Steakhouse. Respect demanded is worthless. Respect given freely before you know someone's title or income or importance. That's the only kind worth having. My father respects me now. My family treats me differently now. They want to understand my work now. They ask questions now. But it's not because they see me differently. It's because they need something from me. Forgiveness, reconciliation, maybe another chance to access the success they dismissed for 12 years. I'm the Chief Technology Officer of a rapidly growing cybersecurity firm. I make strategic decisions based on data, not emotion. And the data is clear. Some relationships are worth investing in. Some aren't. Some business partnerships are mutually beneficial. Some are parasitic. Some families support you when you're nobody. Some only care when you're somebody. I know which category mine falls into. And that's not cruel. That's not vindictive. That's not revenge. That's just business.